everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you have not been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. Today I'm continuing that Lisa Jewell kick. I've read The Girls. You like your neighbours, so why don't you feel safe? There you go, that's your front cover. So, yeah, it says dark secrets, a devastating mystery and the games people play. You live on a picturesque communal garden square, an oasis in urban London where your children run free, in and out of other people's houses. You've known your neighbours for years and you trust them, implicitly. You think your children are safe, but are they really? Midsummer night, a 13-year-old girl is found unconscious in a dark corner of the garden square. What really happened to her, and who is responsible? So it's 416 pages in general fiction, target audience adult. Yeah, it's another one where I'm like, oh, she's done it again. She's done it again. So it starts off with an event where you know that there's lots of people and a girl has gone missing and then she is found, and then it flashes back to, what is it, a few months earlier and everything that led up to that point. Yeah, so it's this is the event, now we're going to go back and explain everything that's led up to this point, and then it goes on further beyond that as you try to understand and fill in the gaps. But yeah, so you're looking at two main families that live on this square, I guess is the best way to put it, because they've all got this big communal garden that they all share. It's one of those ones where the title has more than one meaning. So you've got the girls who have moved into this square, you've got the girls that already lived there, there's also a reference to somebody else who has died years before, and so when you get to the end of the book, I feel like it's not everything is completely answered. It's like you're given like a platter with some of the answers on it, and then some of them you do kind of have to fill in the blanks, but not everything needs to be tied up with a bow at the end. And I think this is a book where it kind of feels satisfying to not have the answers in a way, because it's just like, here's everything, here are all the puzzle pieces, but we're not going to give you the answer on a platter, but we're going to give you everything in between to try and help you put that together. So I think some people may come out with slightly different theories based on the ending, but I think because life doesn't always have the answers, sometimes it's quite satisfying to have a book that doesn't give you the answers, and it's just like, this is the implication of what people happened, because the only people that will know are these like 2 or 3 people. But yes, so it is told from quite a few points of view, but as I said, it does start off with, I think it's Pip that finds her sister Grace in the garden, and she's found unconscious and her clothing is not completely covering her, so there's lots of questions going in as to what actually happened to Grace, as that is the main mystery of the book, what happened to Grace. Then also slightly what happened to somebody else, a girl who died years previously in the same garden, and people are trying to figure out if it's connected or not, and at the end I'm still in the thing of just trying to work it all out. I finished this like about a week ago and I haven't had the chance to sit down and think about this. Obviously it's been stewing, but I'm still have different theories going on in my head. At the beginning you meet Pip and Grace and their mother Claire. They are moving into this square with this communal garden because Pip and Grace's father had a bit of a breakdown and set fire to their house, and you later found out that he has dementia and he's had little flare-ups, is that the right word to use? He's had moments before, but this was like the worst one that they've seen him go through, and Claire is in a very weird situation about it, because obviously she loved her husband, but at the same time she's terrified of him because she and her kids were in the house when he set the house on fire, and the kids have an interesting relationship with that as well. Grace doesn't want to think about her father at all, whereas Pip, in Pip's chapters you see her writing letters to her father. She misses him, even though she knows what he did, she still loves him and she still wants to have that relationship with him. And I'll admit, I thought kind of a bit of the mystery behind some of that was there was going to be more to it in a way, but there wasn't, because it mainly came back to the fact that that was just the situation that brought them to this place where everything happens. Yeah, then you also got all the other characters, where you've got Adele and her husband and their commune of children. I've just seen a little review that kept thinking of where somebody's mentioned that they kept thinking of Lord of the Flies. Children seem to be raising themselves, and I kind of understand that comparison a little bit, because it's not so much, because obviously in Lord of the Flies it's obviously a case of, they're playing games down, there's literally no adults around. In this case, the adults are around, but there is neglect happening. Because when you look at Adele's family, she's very much on a case of, she pulled her kids out of school, decided to homeschool them, and that there's nothing wrong with homeschooling, I'm not saying that, it's just like, in this case, there's a lot of things that point towards neglect in that house, with the way the kids are allowed to run around, the way she doesn't really discipline them. And I know there's an element of that kind of parenting around, but I think there's a very fine line there between doing what's right for your children and neglecting them. There's a very, very thin line there. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people out there who do have this kind of set up in regards to raising their kids, but even they say that their family won't be neglected by the way they choose to raise their children. With Adele, there were points when I was just like, really, mate? Really? Because she really doesn't know how to rein them in. It's like me and dog owners. It's like, whenever I watch like dogs behaving badly, I'm just like, it should be dog owners behaving badly, because you realise it entirely comes back to the adults, not the dogs. And in this case, there's an element of the parents having an effect on their kids, what their kids get up to. Yeah, it is a bit of kind of a run-free situation. And then is it Adele's father or is it her husband's father that comes in, and he's entertaining but he's horrible at the same time, and he was there for the previous death, and so there's lots of people that think that he may have been involved in some way. Yeah, it's just at the end there's still question marks over stuff, with the fact that you realise that Adele has pretty much figured stuff out, but she just chooses to stay quiet. And then there's also a flash forward to when Grace and her family have moved out of the square. You're just like, is there going to be any closure here? And there is, kind of, to an extent, but at the same time not. I feel like I'm being very, very cryptic in it, but it's because it's one of those ones that I think you really need to read to really understand all the little different threads that are going on. Yeah, but it is very much a case of it is really setting the scene of what it's like for these kids growing up in this area, and the garden that they are allowed to run around, and the bench that is dedicated to the girl that died. So it's supposed to be 20 years before? Because, I mean, they're all adults now. But you know that Adele's husband knew the girl that died. 15 years. Just seeing it in front of me. A 15-year-old murder mystery with another teenage girl. The best part of the story is Pip's letters, I think. Really understanding her mentality going into this garden, moving, getting to know the new people, how she feels like a bit of an outsider while her sister Grace seems to be sliding in seamlessly with what's going on, and Pip is feeling like that outside, but then she's also the one that finds her sister in the garden in the beginning as well. So yeah, it's lots to take in. And is it called Irish twins when you've got kids that are born in the same year but they aren't actually twins? You know, it's literally like 9 months between them. That's what's going on with Pip and Grace. But it's weird because even though they're both the same age pretty much, I mean, Grace does have a birthday in the book, Pip just read so much younger that I kind of, a lot of the time I forgot that they're supposed to be Irish twins. I think, is it Irish twins? I need to check. Yeah, Irish twins are the term for siblings born to the same mother within 12 months of each other. Originated in the 1800s, and it was not a very nice way to describe Irish Catholic immigrant families who didn't have access to birth control. It's still used today, many consider it inappropriate and disrespectful, but some families, however, use the term with pride. So I apologise if that is considered offensive. Basically, the two girls were born within about 9 months of each other, so a lot of the time they are within the same age group, but I'll admit that because Grace turns 13 in the book, she is the older sister, so she does read older, but through Pip's letters and the way she talks about her family life and the way she writes to her father, she just reads a lot younger than her sister, which I found very interesting, because so many times throughout the book I was just like, wait, how old is Pip? And she seemed to be having quite adult conversations with people, and it was just like, oh yeah, she's 12. and her sister's about to turn 13, and which means that Pip isn't that far off 13 either. You do see a lot of kids trying to act older than they are. As I said, it's like trigger warning for a bit of neglect going on in regards to the kids, and I will say, like, just underage drinking and underage sex. Yeah, it's a very, very, I wouldn't call this my favourite Lisa Jewell book, because I've got some that are really at the top. For me, it was listening to None of This Is True. That audio book was insane. I absolutely love that book so much. Maybe if I listened to an audio book, maybe I would have felt differently about it, but you do just have a different connection with books when you're comparing reading it with your actual eyes, you know, being able to create that story in your head versus listening to somebody else read it to you. They're very different ways of consuming that media. I did still find it a very enticing book, and I did find myself like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? But yeah, it's just so much, it's focused on the kids, especially in regards to Adele's family, the lack of instruction in regards to Adele's children, the fact that she does let them roam free, you know. She did pull them out of school because she comes across as a bit of a hippie mum. But yeah, you do find out that on the night that, because you find it out straight out of the gate in regards to the beginning of the book, when Grace is found by Pip, you do find out that Pip is actually looking after her mother, who was drinking quite early, because, I mean, I think by the time that Grace is found, it's like 9 o'clock, and Claire is already not feeling well because they have been drinking all afternoon. I mean, like, it's like a barbecue, but it's just like, was anybody looking after the kids that night is the real question that you have over the whole book. But yeah, I mean, I've just seen a review here on Goodreads from TXGal1, but it says, if children are left unsupervised with no responsibility, can they grow up to be good people, or do they become what they are around? And that's a really, really good comment on this book about children who are left unsupervised, because they are just left unsupervised. You know, you've got Adele and her husband, who, you don't even know what's going on with her husband half the time, and then she just, Harry, hey boy, he's been at the vet this morning. Want to sit on me for a bit? I mean, of the family, what? Yeah, of the family of like Claire, Pip and Grace, yeah, Claire and Pip seem to be the most outsides of it, because Grace integrates quite well into the friendship group, and she gets a boyfriend, and meanwhile Claire is just, she's dealing with that hovering thing of her husband, and the fact that her husband may be coming home at some point, because Claire's not really that happy about him being around the kids at the moment. Understandably, she was terrified, you know, he set fire to the house with the kids in it, and so you can understand her distrust of that situation. Pip is just, as I said, you know, she just reads younger and more innocent, and so as things come out about what happened that night, you realise that Pip is a little bit in denial about how much older Grace is trying to present. Yeah, like at the beginning of the book, you can see what I mean about how it's set up. But yeah, so you've got all these different houses, and they all look over this big communal garden. I need to get this up on my iPad, because I realise there are actually little arrows so you can see where people live and how they can see each other. But yes, like down here you've got Claire, Pip and Grace. You've got the house up here, which is Adele's family. You've also got Dylan and Fiona up here. Down here you've got Cece and Tyler. Tyler is a girl. There's a lot of comments about the fact that she's called Tyler. And then over here you've got Rhea, R-H-E-A. Yeah, so Adele is married to Leo. Their kids, they're all quite flowery names, because there's, what is it? Catkin, Ferd and Willow. It was Catkin was the name that was just like, oh, it's an interesting one. I'm surprised it's not called Cat more often, but no, it's always Catkin. And you just find out that Leo even has some really strange things. I mean, it's just described here as new age free-thinking hipsters. And of all of them, Leo seems to be the same one at first, and then you find out some of his secrets, and yeah, it just gets weird. Yeah, oh, apparently it's called The Girls in the Garden. Is that possibly in America? Because it's just the girls over here. But yeah, it was clever. You have all the parts at the end to understand what happened, but it's like, do people learn their lessons? I'm not sure if Adele really does learn her lesson by the end of the book. It's just an interesting one to think about, because I've seen some reviews that say that everybody does learn the lesson in the end, and it's just like, I'm not sure if that's true. Yeah, I did find it quite an entertaining book. Obviously, because of the subject matter, because it starts off with is it Gracie's birthday? Or was it like the day after Gracie's birthday when they had the barbecue? So she's literally just 13. So it can be a bit of an awkward read when you're taking into consideration just how young the kids are based on what happens. Yeah, it's just one you have to read. Lisa Jewell, The Girls. If you like a Lisa Jewell, I think you will enjoy this book. Yeah, it's just, there's very weird relationships happening throughout the book. And yeah, the cat is literally just standing to the left of you. Very tall and very smart. Smiling. You're not the cuddliest cat, are you? It has to be on your own terms. Stop kissing me, Deb. Stop kissing me. He's not being held against his will. Well, now he might be. An interesting one, that one. Which I can understand why people have conflicted views about it, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I wouldn't call it my favourite one from Lisa Jewell, but I did enjoy it. I found it a very clever mystery, and the fact that you've got the 15 years previous murder mystery in there as well, and you're trying to wrap stuff up. Yeah, I thought it was clever. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time with another video. If you have your thoughts on this book, if you have read it, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, because I think this is one that will probably, people will have different thoughts about it. So it would be interesting to hear other people's point of view on this book. So yeah, if you've read it, I'd love to see you talking about it, because I'm just fascinated how other people can interpret books, especially when you've got a book like this, where you are given some of the answers, but it's kind of like you're given the maths equation and you're trying to add it up, and depending on, it's like the whole, when you have the calculations where it's just like you've got a times table, you've got something in brackets, and people are doing things in different orders depending on how they were brought up. And so yeah, it's just like, what order are you going to add everything up in, and are people going to come to different answers and conclusions based on the order that they decide to figure it out in? Yeah. So yeah, cheers, thanks a lot. I will see you next time with another video. Stay safe, I love you all. Goodbye.